Hello, Daz Studio enthusiasts. This is Not From This World, and I want to welcome you back to my tutorial series. Now, today I want to talk a little bit more about lighting, and I know I've done quite a few tutorials with lighting, but rather than trying to make one really long tutorial that no one wants to watch, I try and keep them really short. So I want to show you a couple techniques that I use all the time dealing with lighting that maybe I haven't talked about in the past. Now, the first thing I want to talk about is creating a new spotlight. And as I've shown you in other tutorials, I really like to set up an indoor scene, such as Milika here in a dungeon. She is back being a dungeon master, and I have a dungeon scene set up. And I want to add spotlights to the scene to light up the inside of the dungeon. And to do that, like I said, I usually use spotlights. Now, I already have some spotlights made for this scene because I've used this scene in the past. So I have 3 spotlights. But to show you how I would set up a new spotlight, like let's say I need a 4th spotlight to create a shadow or something, what I normally like to do is duplicate or copy an existing spotlight. And the reason why I do this is because if we select the spotlight in our parameters tab, we will see that it is set up the way that I like it. So I have set up like the photometrics. I think this one is at, let's see, it is at 150,000 lumens. The temperature is just a default, but I have it where I like it. The area I have selected as a rectangle. So if I need to set up a 2nd, 3rd, 4th spotlight, all I have to do is select this spotlight in my scene, come over here to edit, go to duplicate node hierarchies, and I will just create an exact copy of that spotlight. So once I have one spotlight set up, I can just copy them, and then of course I can select that spotlight and move it wherever I want to. So it's going to have the same setup as the first one that I did. So if you copy your spotlights, you can save some time by duplicating all of that spotlight's assets, and then you don't have to go back in and adjust and redo the spotlight to get it how you like it. So that's my first tip. I think this is probably how I set up about 98% of my scenes, especially indoors, is just duplicating, copying those spotlights so that they're all the same. Okay, now the second thing I want to show you is 2 easy little tricks to adjust the lighting. So, for example, if I run an iRay, and when I run my iRay test, let's say, this is a dungeon, so let's say my light is just a little too bright. So, I've got the spotlights set up the way I like them, but Milika is very illuminated here. She's very bright. And so maybe I want to lower that down. Now, we can do this a couple of ways. The first way may work really well for you if you want to adjust some of the lighting. And the way that we can do that is through just selecting the different spotlights. So I'm going to find a spotlight that is facing her that I like. That one looks pretty good. Let's see what spotlight 2. Okay, spotlight 2. Spotlight 3. Okay, let's say I want to keep spotlight 3 at the intensity that I have it, but I want to lower the intensity of the other spotlights. I can do that here in my parameters tab. And if I want to keep spotlight 3 bright but lower the other spotlights, all I have to do is select the spotlights in my scene, and then we should be able to just lower the intensity. So if I select the spotlight and then I go into my scene tab, I hit the control button and I can select the 3 spotlights that I want to lower, and then drop down to the parameters tab and select them in there. So spotlight 4, spotlight 1, and spotlight 2. And now I can just scroll down to where it says intensity, and I can change that luminance coming off of those particular spotlights. So I can lower it. Now, we can't really see this unless we are in iRay. So let me show you by putting this into iRay. And I'm going to go to my original camera here. And let's see if I can adjust this intensity. So I've got 3 of my spotlights selected. And we're just going to lower that intensity down to like 20%. Let's make it extreme so we can see the difference. So right away, you can see the difference in the lighting. So now I still have that one spotlight that's bright, kind of shining on Milika because she's the central part of the picture, of course. I mean, look how cute she is. But the other spotlights are now at about 18% of what they were. If I want to make it brighter, I can just jump that up. Let's jump it up to 160 just so you can see the difference in intensity here. And you can see she's much brighter. So once I have my spotlights set up by copying them, duplicating them, I can then adjust the intensity of the spotlights together by just selecting them all, going to the parameters tab, and using the intensity. So I'm going to drop this back down to about 40%, and we're going to call that good. Now, there's another way that we can adjust our lighting, but it actually has nothing to do with the spotlights itself. It has to do with our render settings. So over here in my render settings, I have the render settings selected, and if I go to tone mapping, we can make the entire scene either brighter or darker by messing with the film ISO. Now the film ISO, it's like Daz Studio is sort of like a camera where it has light sensitivity built into it. So we're not actually changing the spotlights or anything when we mess with the ISO. We're just basically changing the camera. And so all of our cameras are either going to be more sensitive to light with ISO or less sensitive. So to give you an idea, it's defaulted, the film ISO is defaulted to 100. Let's knock this down to 20 just to show you a huge contrast. So if I knock the film ISO to 20, I am now getting a darker image because I am changing the light sensitivity to the camera. And in a situation like this dungeon, it might be best like this because you can see up here kind of in the stairway, there's still some light. The flag has some light. Milika, because of my spotlight here, is still having some light shining on her, but it's darker all around. Now let's do the extreme. I'm going to raise this film ISO up to, let's raise it up to like 150 and we'll see what happens. Okay, so see if I raise that ISO up to 150, she is a lot brighter. So we're allowing more light through the camera. So you can mess with this in different ways. I tend to like selecting my spotlights and then changing the intensity like what we did a few minutes ago. But if you want to make the entire scene brighter or more darker, the ISO works great because it just does it completely throughout the entire picture because we're messing with the camera. So there are several comics that I've made where I really wish I knew about this ISO thing because I was rendering the pictures and they were darker than I wanted, and all I really needed to do was boost this ISO up and I could have got a better render. And then I ended up doing a bunch of post work, which I have a video for using GIMP on how to adjust those renders. And you know, the reason why I didn't go back is simply because I rendered so many pictures. Going back and re-rendering them with the ISO raised for every scene that I had rendered would have taken forever. As I created this darker comic, I raised the light for each picture as I went, and maybe it was kind of the lazy way out. In fact, I remember some of you even commenting that, oh, I wouldn't really do that. And I totally agree with you, but sometimes, you know, it just saves a little bit of time, or it's just a little bit easier to try and do post work with adjusting light. This is much better though. So adjust your spotlights, adjust your ISO, and get the lighting that you want once you have your spotlight cameras set up. Okay, well, that's about going to wrap up today's video. I hope you learned something. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and give me a few comments on what you think. I do want to thank everyone. My little channel is growing, and I'm very pleased with the results of my subscribers. So if you're still one of those people that haven't subscribed, please hit that subscribe button, support my channel, watch my older videos, and until next time, happy rendering.